You're watching The Midlife Shift, and in this episode, we go from chaos to comedy with author and comedian Jean Kittson. Welcome to The Midlife Shift, juicy conversations to help you thrive after 50.
Everybody wants to live better, wants to look better, wants to stay younger.
If we are talking about the future, there's nothing better you can do than to make sure that you've got some more life.
I can't stand the whole, oh no, I've got no regrets.
Yeah.
Really? Have you lived a life?
Join us as we shake things up and talk about the things that matter and maybe a few things that don't. Jean is hilariously wise, turning tough topics like menopause and looking after your parents into laugh out loud lessons. It's a great thing about your books. They mix cartoons and factual advice to basically help you understand a few things, make you a bit wiser, make you a little bit cleverer. I really enjoy them. They're great. First, I want you to tell us about your parents, Elaine and Roy.
Oh, thanks, Alex. It's really nice of you to say all those kind things about me. I try to use humour to talk about difficult topics, so I think it just sort of takes the fear away sometimes. And
I hope so.
yes, I hope so too. There's a lot of fear around aging and death and dying and menopause.
Yes.
So,
And ADHD.
And ADHD. Haven't written a book about that yet.
Oh, there's got to be one in the works somewhere.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, I know that it took me 5 years to write my other book, so that was probably because I've only just been diagnosed by a daughter who knows these things, not a doctor, but I've possibly got ADHD, and all my oldest friends are going, yeah, of course. Oh, why didn't anyone tell me?
Because you were too busy looking after Elaine and Roy, right?
Yeah, they were beautiful parents who
you're very lucky.
their family was everything to them. They sacrificed a lot for their family. So I think I had good role models in how important doing the right thing by family is, and staying connected, and forgiving each other for transgressions, whether
There's
we're
lots of those.
teenagers or adults, or just always being there no matter what. That's what they were like.
Yeah. And now they sadly passed just last year. But
Yeah.
interestingly, you said to me, because I think your mum was 99,
Yes.
which was a ripe, good age, and your dad was a little bit younger, but he was her toy boy, right?
Yes, Roy, the
Yeah.
toy boy. Roy and Elaine, yeah.
And so they had a great innings, and you've actually said that you believe having a good carer is part of having a good, rich, long life, that they lived longer because you were their advocate in the healthcare and aged care
Definitely.
system.
Definitely. There were many times when they would never have left the hospital. They would
Wow.
never have recovered if they hadn't had someone like me to be sort of their team
Feisty?
leader. Oh, yeah. Be their advocate. Be their voice.
Interesting.
To ask them what they wanted, and if they wanted to get home, I got them home. I
Okay.
got the care they needed at home to help them stay at home. They were living independently in their own home, a retirement village unit, but in their own home, till the last 2 weeks of their life.
Yeah, okay, that's nice. But what is, I guess, the moments that you treasure now that they've passed? What is it about the last decade, 15 years where you've been caring for them that you actually go, that was a good moment?
Oh, every moment.
Oh,
I
really?
miss them so much.
Oh.
I really do. You don't know how much you're going to miss your parents till they
Are gone.
till they die or they pass. But there are so many moments. They all bubble up all the time, whether it's a moment when we were kids and we'd first moved down to Sorrento to live, and we all decided to go crabbing because we lived by the beach. Let's go crabbing. And Mum and Dad, I don't know what they got, a torch and a spear. And then the kids were all sitting on the beach at night, and they went wading into the water, and then all we hear is screams because maybe 200 crabs arrived in the torchlight, and one of them just ringed my father's little toe like a can opener.
Ow.
And they're screaming, and Mum jumped on his back, and so I think of moments when I was a kid, and then I think of when I was a young mum, and I asked them to babysit so my husband and I could go out for dinner,
Yeah.
and we're in the window of a restaurant and relaxing at last, and then we look up and there's this knock on the window and there's mum and dad pushing out 1.5-year-old. Mum, hello. This is not what we had in mind.
Oh,
And then there's just, like sitting with them as they're older and them sharing stories. So there are so many moments I couldn't,
And-
they bubble up all the time at about 2 a.m. usually.
oh yeah, when you can't get back to sleep, I know that one. And talk to me about how you know when you need to step in to start caring for your parents versus just being a regular old daughter,
Yeah,
How
well,
does that moment arrive?
Well, it's actually not a moment. It's very gradual.
Okay.
And I look back, and the first time I look back in on my computer at all the things I've written, and the first time I actually wrote, I was doing an aged care conference way
Wow.
back, 30 years ago, and the first time, 25 years ago, but and the first time I wrote about worrying about my parents, they would have been in their mid-70s.
Okay.
And now, I'm going to be 70 this year. My husband's already 76. And I look at that and I go, that was way too early to be worried about whether they were coping.
Yeah.
They were young,
Yeah.
They were young. They had 25 years to go. And
know.
so you don't know, you shouldn't start worrying too early, but you need to talk about it with them.
Okay.
Just so you can plan, because planning is everything. Planning gives you, all the freedom.
Yeah.
And prepares you,
And this is because it is a challenging journey, right? Like families can fracture, sibling relationships can get torn apart. Different siblings will have different views on the way the caring might need to happen. And you talk about this thing called the all goes to shit kit. Now, is the all goes to shit kit a part of the planning that you can open up discussions with first, or do you really need the all goes to shit kit later on?
Oh, well, I wrote the all goes to shit kit when when there's a crisis. For
Okay.
when there's a crisis. No, it all starts with talking honestly and openly with your family, with your parents at the center of the conversation, listening to what they want, with your family if possible. So it'll take a few conversations about what they want, where they see themselves in the future, what they hope for, what their fears are.
Yeah.
Because a lot of our elders will refuse help, around the house. I hear this all the time from their kids going,
Exactly.
"Oh yeah, my mum's still, she won't get any help around the house," and often it's because if they think they even ask for an hour of help around the house, their family will say, "Oh, you're not coping," and then that'll be the thin edge of the wedge, and they'll end up in a residential aged care. But it's not, as if you can reassure your parents that you are there and the family is there to put all the help in, all the services in place that enable them to live the life they want.
Yeah.
That's what you're there for.
And I guess there is a lot of fear around that. I mean, no one wants to think their kids are going to be helping them survive later in life, right? It's kind of like a reversal of the natural order of things.
Yes.
But tell me how that moment arrives when you realize there's a crisis. Like for you, what was it with Elaine and Roy?
Well, there's so many of those points.
Okay.
There's so many of them. They just when I started caring for my parents, they wouldn't go to a doctor, even never go to a doctor for a checkup. They wouldn't go to a doctor unless a boa constrictor was around one leg and an arrow was through the other.
Or maybe a crab on his toe.
Or a crab. Not even then. Not a crab, no. But by the end of the time that I was caring for them, they'd had between them, they'd had 2 strokes, a broken shoulder, a broken hip, a broken femur, failed kidneys, 2 heart conditions, coronary occlusion, pulmonary disease. They'd both lost their sight, and they both were hearing impaired, and they'd had skin cancers. You
skin
name
cancer.
it. So it just slowly builds.
Cascades over time.
Or slowly cascades. Or slowly builds. But yeah, it just sort of increases. It's unlike kids because your kids get more and more independent. With your parents, this is a marathon, and you're just
Yeah,
keeping.
okay.
But what your role is, if you want them to be as well as possible and living the best life they can with purpose and meaning, is to keep on top of their health.
Yeah,
So
okay.
even something like a scratch is not a scratch, it's a wound. So take a photo of it. My kids will never look at my phone. You know,
Oh,
you know
'cause
how
you've got
your
too many photos on
teenage
there.
kids look at you. What have you been taking a picture of?
Ah!
Ah, what's that? That's your grandmother's toe. No. So, you know, like you got to keep an eye on everything, keep on top of it.
Okay.
Go to the doctors. In the end, they would go to at the beginning, they go to the doctors by themselves. And then in the end, I realized, and GPs have said that to me. They've said the elders who have an advocate with them, who have someone who
Okay.
accompanies them to the doctor, doesn't speak for them, but takes notes and makes sure they mention all the things that have been going on and follows up, they are more engaged with their patient.
Ah, okay. So the
Yeah.
doctor pays more attention when there's an
That
advocate
because
as
they
well.
know that the elders aren't going to go home and forget to have the blood test or mix up their
Okay.
meds. And, you know, maybe I was surprised that GPs would admit that. This is only a couple who have said that. But I guess psychologically, they see so many people when they know, they go, right, this person has got
Yeah,
a team
okay.
behind them, and what I suggest for their treatment is going to be followed through. And
Okay.
and when they say change the bandage after 2 days, the bandage will get changed after 2 days. You
Yeah,
know, bring a
okay.
physio in for your shoulder, the physio will come. And mum and dad had great care,
Okay. That's
and
good.
they had no aches or pains. I went through that list, but they were really well. They just had sort of medical events.
Yeah. Well, I
Not
think
like an awards night, but you know, like
yeah, not the kind of awards night you want to go to.
not
But all of us can face medical events in our lives. It's not just when you're old that you face them. It's just that when you get old, the incidence is higher, right? It's natural.
And going into hospital, it's really essential that they have someone there to
Yeah,
speak
okay.
for them, because often so mum and dad in the end were often taken to hospital without their hearing aids or
Oh
or their
no.
glasses, and the staff would think they had dementia or
Oh
weren't
no.
cognitively there, and but they just couldn't hear them.
Yeah,
So you
okay.
have to be their voice, their advocate. The world is impatient with older people.
Yeah, very much so. I think that's a very sad truth and something all of us worry about, right?
Yeah.
It's a fear that sits with all of us. And if we start to see our parents getting older and needing more help, some of us don't even know how to navigate that, right? Like some people don't know how to have an open and frank sort of conversation.
No, because you probably don't want to talk about it. It's like
Well,
talking about end of life. It's very difficult, but it actually helps so much.
so what would be an easy way for people who do have that fear? What might some opening lines be to, I guess, have the conversation that might feel awkward and really difficult, but needs to be had?
I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe if you're watching a movie and someone gets sick. Oh, what? Oh, look, someone's sick. What would happen if you got sick? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, look, that person's getting old. What would you think if you were that age? I don't know. Use something as a springboard. Maybe be looking at something else. Some people don't like to sit down for the
No, that's right.
serious
That's exactly
face
right.
to face. So maybe bring up the conversation as part of something more pleasant. Talk about the need that talking about this will give them more autonomy, more power. It'll
Yeah, okay.
empower them. Like emphasize that,
Okay.
and nowadays I think all older people, you don't want someone to think you're not coping.
That's
It's
right.
so
That's exactly
undermining.
right. That's exactly
It's
right.
so undermining, and you just feel sick, and you think, "Oh, next thing you know, they're going to take away my license
Yeah,
or
that's right.
my house."
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
frightening. They're very vulnerable. So they've got a voice.
Yeah.
Listen to them. Always
Okay.
listen to them. Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of in the all goes to shit kit. There's a whole lot of pieces to that kit, right? That you talk about.
Yeah.
Describe them.
Well, there's,
Explain it.
one of them was like just make sure there's a key somewhere near their house. So if you can't get onto them and you live an hour away like I did, ring someone, the neighbor, can you just let yourself in because they're not answering the phone and I'm not sure they're okay.
Okay.
And the key is, under the mat. Well, no, don't hide
Okay.
it under the mat, but, put it have a spare key somewhere. When Mum and Dad were in a retirement village, that wasn't an issue. But then there's if something happens, they have a stroke or something, and Mum had a stroke at one point, and she came back from it, except she was on a frame. But what if she'd lost the power of speech, or what if she'd been cognitively impaired?
Wow.
Make sure you know you have all the legal and financial papers in place, and you know where they are.
Let's talk about those legal and financial papers, right? Because it is kind of a list. There's obviously a will, which everyone understands.
Yeah, and make sure you get a solicitor who doesn't do, real estate conveyancing, blah, blah, wills. Make sure you get someone who knows about wills.
Ah, okay.
Because wills, you don't want to leave a bomb in your will to cause your whole family to implode when you die. You want a will that's drawn up properly with everyone considered, even the Voldemorts of the family. At least mention them. Otherwise, it can open a can of worms.
No, this is very true. So
have a good solicitor for a will.
But then we've got enduring power of attorney.
That means when you want someone else to take over, not necessarily making the decisions, but for instance, when their mobility got very difficult and they lost their sight, I could go to the bank.
Okay.
And I could take their passbook. They still had passbooks.
Oh, good on them.
I would take their passbook and I would empty their accounts. And I would take money out for them.
Elder abuse is a real concern, right?
So when you get your enduring power of attorney, in fact, I found out that the way that Mum and Dad gave me enduring power of attorney was actually elder abuse.
Oh.
Because I knew they had to choose their own solicitor. I couldn't choose it. So they chose their own solicitor. But when I went there with them, that solicitor didn't ask me to leave the room. Just I sat in the room with them and she said, oh, well, here's the thing. Can you sign this? You're giving Jean and I'm sitting there. Now I could have been the bad daughter. And I could have been coercing them. And they could have been frightened of me. And I was sitting there and they had no chance at all to say, we're not sure whether this is the right thing to do. So that's elder abuse. I shouldn't have been in the room. I didn't know it till later. I shouldn't have been in the room. And
because it's a conflict, right? And you want your parents to be empowered, not disempowered by things like enduring power of attorney.
Exactly.
So frightening. And then there's other things now.
Advanced directives?
Yes.
Advanced directive is good to have it legally because then it makes you discuss what you want.
Talk about what an advance directive is for people who don't know.
It's
the scary one, isn't it?
Well,
confronting. All of them are confronting,
they
right?
are.
Because they all make you face the very big D word of death, which not many of us are comfortable with.
No.
But having the paperwork in place actually should be something we aspire to do because it makes it safe for everybody.
Well, yes, and it means that you've thought about it and we know what your wishes are.
That's right.
We know what they are. So an advance directive is the legal document that you fill in to say what you want to happen, and maybe and some of them are very detailed, and they'll say they might ask you, do you want antibiotics? And then Mum goes, no, I don't want antibiotics, just let me go. And I go, but what if you've got a UTI, Mum, and you can get home in like 3 days? Oh, okay, I'll have antibiotics. So you've got to talk through.
Or the crab is infected the toe.
The crab infected it became a wound.
That's right, and you didn't take the photo. And
That's
they need
right.
the antibiotics.
And we didn't dress it properly. And I know. So
so the advanced care directive, who do you make that with? Like,
you should make it with a GP, but a GP doesn't have time. You've got to book in a long time.
Okay, so you've got to be prepared for all these pieces of paper, right?
Yeah, but then their GP, and so I did a really complicated one with my husband, and I did one with our lawyer, and then my GP says, but if you put it with your will, because the lawyer had suggested it, and she said, "What's an advance directive any good if it's with your will? No
That's
one looks
right.
at your will till
That's
after you're
right.
dead."
That's
I
right.
went, "Oh yeah," and she said, "What would he know about
The wound?
medical issues?
The wound? The
putting your
antibiotics?
toe on life support. Like what would he?" I went, "Yeah, of course." So mum and dad's. So you do it with a GP. Mum and dad's GP gave a very good advance directive, and mainly what it is, what you really want at the end of life is palliative care specialists or palliative care nurses, and then they will know how to manage all your symptoms. And that's what you say, I want palliative care, and
Just in
they
big
will
capital
manage my
letters.
symptoms, and they will know,
And your
and
pain.
they'll
and-
say,
yeah.
and you'll say, I don't, want a transplant when I'm 99 or something, but
Correct.
but there's also, which is just as important, is an advanced care plan, which is the sort of thing you talk about with your family, and you go, I want to be home, I want to be in my bed, I want you to
Okay.
if I lose the power of speech, I want you to come and read to me, I want you to play some music, I want you to live your life all around me, I want some champagne for breakfast, I want you to read me the news or not the news, but some
Whatever.
poetry.
Yeah. Whatever makes you
And
happy.
that's the sort of thing. I'd like to be near a window. I'd like to see the beach. So if you can't express yourself, the sort of life things that
that
make
people want.
yeah.
And so,
but the advance directive is medical.
so the advanced care directive is medical, but the advanced care plan,
Yeah.
who do you make that with?
You make that with your family.
So that's just something between you, your kids, your loved ones.
yeah, but you write it down.
Okay.
And then you probably should include the funeral and that, because when mum and dad died.
Oh, yeah, well, funerals are vexed, right? Funerals,
Yeah.
because they're for the living people left behind. They're not really for the person, but people have wishes, right?
Yeah, but we hadn't, even though in my book I say discuss all this, write it down. I never wrote it down what they wanted. So we didn't have music, we hadn't planned anything, we didn't, and then I didn't read. I thought Dad wanted to be cremated. My sister wasn't sure whether he wanted to be cremated or not, because he grew up a Catholic and my mum was non-believing. And then we thought their wishes was Mum. She was been talking about dying since she was about 40, which I now realize
the
was
crap.
menopause, and she would say, change, and she said it with the kid, just in case I don't die, but I lie there like a vegetable, and I really think I will. I want you to promise me you'll just turn off the machine, And first of all, I had no idea what machine she had in mind, possibly the iron.
Could have been the iron, right?
She liked ironing. Well, she didn't like it, she did it. But,
Yeah, she did it.
And
Or
then,
the oven.
and then she said, and when I die, I want my ashes scattered at sea, accompanied by a lone piper, who apparently then had to swim back to shore. And then my dad, his wishes, when we all sorted it out, he wanted to be cremated because Mum was cremated. He wanted to be with Mum, but he didn't want to be scattered at sea.
Well, how does
So
that work?
it didn't work. They're in the bottom of my wardrobe.
Are they at least in a nice container?
Well, yeah, they came in the containers from the funeral parlour.
I know. And now this is the sad part about your parents' death, because they died within 4 weeks of each other, right? Which must
Yeah.
have been a terrible, terrible thing for you being left behind. But had you already organised, because I think it was your father that passed first, right?
Yeah.
Had his funeral been done and dusted by the time your mother passed, or did you actually kind of have to do both at the same
his
time?
was done and dusted.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's lucky.
So, we had his, and even though it's with a caring responsibility, I think what I'm left with is just this, because neither of their deaths were very good, even though I thought I planned everything, even though I'd written a book about it, I felt like I fell at the last hurdle, and I feel like their deaths weren't good. And as their carer, their primary carer, I felt like I just let them down, and I failed them.
Oh, I'm sure you didn't, but I'm
Thank
sure
you,
that's
Alex.
what we all beat ourselves up, right? And it's a terrible experience going through the death of a loved one. I mean, I myself had to identify my father's body. He was going out to get a packet of ciggies and died
Oh,
getting his ciggies.
no,
Yeah, he
yeah.
did. And I had a toddler at home, and the police knocked on my door.
Oh, no.
Literally the whole. And I was like, I can't come until the toddlers are in bed.
Yeah,
And I had to. Yeah, and I was the only one there dealing with it, and it was
right.
very startling at the time.
Yeah,
I didn't know
of
what to do,
course.
and you're just so shocked, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone feels that with the passing, no matter how well prepared you might be, right? I'm sure it's still a sudden shock when they're
Well, I
finally.
think there's a difference between grief and loss and
Okay.
trauma.
Okay.
So I
Talk about that.
think you can be, and I spoke to people for my book who were traumatized by their
Okay.
parents' death because they'd been so horrible.
Oh,
And they lived with that for years. And even 15 years later, they would cry about their feeling of powerlessness to help
okay.
their parents
Oh, terrible.
at the end of their life. So that was one of the, the driving forces of
Okay.
my motivation to write this book was to help people talk about it and plan it and deal with it. And then even then, there were things that went
Pear shape.
wrong, and mum didn't have palliative care. And I've been a patron of Palliative Care Nurses Australia for like 10 years. I'm a big advocate for palliative care. I thought we could get it, but not everyone can access it.
And let's talk about palliative care, which is end of life care. It's the care you get as you literally exit this world, right?
No, it's not. No, your
Mm,
palliative care should come in whenever you need it. It actually, palliative care
okay.
can come in. Say, if you were diagnosed with Parkinson's, you could talk to a palliative care nurse straight away about what
Oh,
the whole journey might look like. So when you get symptoms, palliative care are not only they are the people who manage the symptoms of your end of life
demise,
or
your
your
demise.
terminal illness. So they manage them from
Okay.
whenever they happen, and they also help the family and the person manage their known the fact that they're going to die from whatever they've got, whether it's age or a life
Parkinson's.
limiting illness, as
Mm,
they call it now, with their emotional and psychological and existential and spiritual, because these nurses and specialists, that's what they're trained to
that's
do.
right.
They can do all of that. You're not alone. They help the family actually accept what's going on and manage their own emotions and help the person dying with their emotions. They're incredible. And Dad had a palliative care nurse from maybe 6 months before he died, because he had coronary occlusion pulmonary disease, which
Oh,
is,
okay.
you get it from like asbestos and
Oh, okay.
smoking, and it's and you get breathless. And he would often
That's sad.
in his 90s have to call the ambulance because he
His
would
breath,
get
yeah.
breathless, he would be suffocating, he'd panic. And so I got him a palliative care nurse, and she just gave him a couple of really good tips. One, sleep with the fan on,
Ah,
because just that gentle pushing of the air up your nose, you know how everyone
yeah,
in hospital,
exactly.
that actually helps him breathe. And also, she prescribed him Ordine, which is hard to get now, but is really, really important for people managing their
Okay.
anxiety and symptoms of mortality. So when he was starting to panic, if he was starting to panic, he took just Ordine is a sort of morphine.
Oh,
So
okay.
he just
Okay.
took a syringe, 1 milligram, and it relaxes you and opens your airways.
Ah, okay.
Now, I left them by his bed. He never used them because I think he thought I was knocking him off. But
He thought that elder abuse had come
yeah,
back.
what's this, morphine? I know what you're doing. I won't be able to wake up in the morning. Luckily, the GP came who would do home visits to them, and he went, "Oh, that's really good to have that there, Roy. That's really good. If you panic, take that."
Oh,
And
okay.
so, and that he never called the
Okay.
ambulance again for breathlessness, because
Okay, so
he
interesting.
felt his breathing was improved by the fans, and he held a little hand fan during the day if he needed it, and he
So
knew
cute.
that the Ordine was there if he was starting to panic.
That's so interesting. And so palliative care, I mean, I really did believe, because I've been in palliative care units at hospitals, which
Yeah.
are, people live their last days in the palliative care
Yeah,
unit at many
definitely.
hospitals. But I have absolutely heard that there's a drastic shortage of that type of care in Australia. And I think we do know that there's limitations on our aged care, our healthcare, our
Yeah.
residential aged care system, all those little bits that sort of are supposed to come together, which I
Yeah.
definitely want us to talk to, because not everyone fully understands how our system works. We either think it's you're living at home, all happy and independent one day, and then you're in a residential aged care or what we would call a nursing home the next. And it's not really like that anymore.
No.
But maybe you could talk about it, because Australia's aged care system is going through a lot of changes right
Yeah.
now. And I believe it all starts with the ACAT assessment. Okay.
Oh, yeah, the bloody ACAT assessment.
Can you talk to us about what that is?
Well, at the moment, what it is, well, let me just say on the 1st of November, all the new rules and regulations are coming in,
Okay,
and
not
that will
far now.
change a lot of it, but you will still need to be assessed. And I cannot emphasize how important it is to get into the system
That's right.
as soon as possible. Like, I'm going to ring up and get in. I'm going to be
You're going to book in
assessed.
yourself, are you?
Yeah. It'll take me 2 years to get on a level 1. The waiting lists are
massive.
huge and
Yes.
massive. So if you're in your 80s, there's so many people in their 80s and they're not even thinking
They're not
about
even-
being, please just get assessed. And what will happen is, what happened with my parents is, first of all, you got to ring My Aged Care.
Yeah.
And then mum and dad
Yep.
could never hear anybody on the phone from My Aged Care. And then I'd ring up, oh, hello, ring at 8 o'clock in the morning.
First up, so you don't get
first up.
stuck on hold for
Don't
an
get
hour.
on hold, because you're on hold, 25 minutes on hold, and then it drops out. And then you try to ring back and you're blocked. So, like,
Yeah.
so ring at 8 o'clock in the morning, get yourself a book, some chocolate, maybe a glass of wine, like you're going to have a big
Settle
bong.
in.
Settle in, ring, talk to someone. Then they'll say, what happened with me was that I said, I need, my parents want to be registered for My Aged Care. Well, can you put them on, please? Oh, yes. Dad, I want you to talk to My Aged Care. Who? My Aged Care, because they were the ones who are going to then send out someone, you'll get some help, All right, so he gets on, and then the woman says, so what's your name? What did you say? I'm sorry, what did she say? She said, what's your name, Dad? And he's going, my name's Roy Kittson. And then she said, oh, what's your date of birth? What was that? What's your date of birth? And then you hear her say, I'm sorry, you've got to leave the room while I get authority to talk to you. You can't be in the room, like the enduring power of attorney. So I go out of the room, and then I hear her say, what's your pension card number? He's going, what? What's your, because hearing impaired isn't volume, it's separating the words, and
Yeah.
people don't get trained to do that. What's your pension card number? And you go, what? And then he said, oh, I can't. Then he gets it out, and then he said, Jean, what's my pension card? I can't come in there, Roy. And she's going, you're not supposed to be listening. And it's this terrible. It's like it's crazy.
I know, but you've got to go through this to get in the system, right? So
Then you get given a reference number. Write that reference number down. Tattoo that reference number on your forehead. Name your dog after that reference number, because next time you ring Centrelink, you say, this is my reference number. This is who I spoke to. And then when they say get a form, ask them the number of the form, because it could be
30,000 forms. Yeah,
Yeah,
you've got to have the right
2,000,
number.
2 million forms that are exactly the same, except they're slightly different. So you do that, and then they say, well, we'll send someone out to assess you. And I go, all right, they're going to send someone out to assess you. When they ring up and make a time, tell me when they're coming. And of course, weeks
don't.
and weeks go by, and then I get a phone call. Oh, hello, Jean. Oh, hello, Mum. Oh, we had the assessment today. I asked you to ring me. She said, I think we did really well. And I'm going,
They think it's like a driving test. You've just got to pass it, when actually you need the assessment to be accurate so you can get the help that they need,
exactly.
right?
You don't don't go really well. I can just imagine them doing tangos, making pavlovas. I said,
Proving
you just
how
got to be
little help they
real.
need.
Yeah, we don't need any help. But luckily, the assessment team could see through it. And
Yes.
but their neighbours were on a level 1, and they were on a level 1 for many years. And I'd go and see them when I saw mum and dad, and I'd say, "You've got to use." And I said, "Are you on? You're on a home care package?" "Yeah, but we don't use it. Please use it. Please use it.
Use it or lose
we
it,
don't
right?
need an hour a week."
Yeah.
But I'm going. But if you don't use it, you won't go to a level 2, and
That's
then
right.
around the corner you might need a level 4.
Exactly.
But you haven't. Just use it for anything. Anything drive you to the races. Anything. Just use that hour, and with a co-payment. Mum and dad were pensioners,
Yes.
so their whole financial system setup was pretty easy.
That's right.
Because they didn't need to be assessed. They'd already done it for the pension. But their neighbours, they had to do a
self-funded.
co-payment, and they
Yeah,
don't.
okay.
We don't want to pay $17 for an
know.
hour of work which we don't need. I'm going, just pay it because you just want to be
In the system.
You want to be in the system. You want to be using it because when you do need it, and it comes suddenly.
It does. And that's the hard part to deal with the system, right? Is you need to sort of level up, and there's a
Yeah.
waiting list, and if you
Yeah.
haven't been using it, there's no urgency to level you up.
Oh, that's a absolutely shameful thing about the system is the waiting times. People
Yeah.
die waiting for them.
Exactly.
People die waiting for a level 4 so that they can stay at home or die at home.
It's terrible.
I know the waiting lists are really
Yeah.
long. The complexity does your head in.
Yep.
And this new system, instead of 4 levels, there are now going to be 8 levels.
8 levels. Oh, that's to the power of 8 now instead of the power of 4. So there's
Yeah, I
so-
like what you're doing there.
So there's
because that's what
so
it
much
is.
more complexity
Yes.
looping in there, which kind of means, especially because women do the majority of caring, right? Like I know men do their fair share occasionally, but generally,
Women. Of course.
the caring burden falls to women. And so just as your kids might be getting off your hands, you may well not only be looking after your own elderly parents, you may also be looking after your in-laws or other people in the family or
definitely.
other people you have relationships with that you
Yeah,
like and care for.
That's right. Yeah.
And so everyone needs to understand the system to kind of navigate it because there's no
But
GPS, right?
No, there's no. Yeah, turn left at the next corner.
No.
Yeah, fill
just
in this
get
form and then
just
just
the reference number, the form number, the help.
so many decisions.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
you
many.
cannot do this as an elder, especially if you're vision or hearing impaired. Like
That's a
I
challenge, isn't it?
where you can't see the forms.
Mm.
Oh, and that on the if all goes to shit list, it's not only the legal forms and knowing what their finances are, but please nowadays, if something happened to Patrick and I, my kids would need to know our PIN numbers and our passwords.
And your
Please do that.
passwords.
That's really important. And in my if all goes to shit list, I had a wing person, but really you can't really hand over the reins. It's you. It's
Okay.
you who. But what you need, we all know it takes a village to raise a child. It also takes a village to make sure
care.
your elders reach safe harbor at the end of their lives with as much purpose and meaning
Exactly.
and love and pleasure as possible and as well as possible. And you're the sort of one that pulls that team together,
Yeah,
that
okay.
village. Like a multidisciplinary team.
So-
You're the head, so.
So my mother's crafted something called her demise document.
Oh, great.
We're on version 7.2 at the moment.
Oh, I love 7.2. So she
she's-
changed the
she loves,
punctuation.
well, it depends. Yeah, she loves changing punctuation, and we don't know the good ones get laminated and left behind, right? So
She's brilliant.
well, she was an executive secretary, and she loves control is her thing.
I love that.
I know she's very
love
rare.
that.
It is a
Oh,
very
yeah.
interesting
Nobody
quirk.
really wants to do
I
it
know.
for themselves or anything.
So my dad, who died going to get his packet of
Yeah.
ciggies, like literally just outside the ciggy shop.
Oh.
He had nothing organised, and I'd been nagging him because my grandmother had sadly passed just 6 weeks before he died,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and
yeah.
I was like, when are we having Grandma's
Oh.
funeral? And he was the only child, couldn't face it, and so I had to clean up my father's house because that's the other awful thing about death is there's all these practicalities afterwards, right?
yes.
Like
Yeah.
packing up the house and making sure everything's sort of sorted in some way, shape, or form. And there I am cleaning out the spare bedroom, and I find Grandma's ashes in a sports bag.
No.
I'm like, oh, there she is.
There she is.
Which is why I asked your question about the funeral, because I then had to do an interment of both of them because my father was obsessed with being buried at Waverley Cemetery.
Right.
Obsessed.
Oh,
course,
well, that's good you knew.
I knew this because that's where he used to take us on our every second Saturday daddy-daughter visits to the cemetery, so he could show me Henry Lawson's grave and all these other terribly exciting things that 7-year-olds do not wish to see.
Why he did that. That's interesting. Maybe he was sort of helping prepare you, like opening your eyes. This is a reality. Because
Maybe.
he's a good dad. My parents never talked about death and dying.
Well, I think my own father's father died when my dad was only a 3-month-old baby. So he
Right.
had this kind of, I don't know, longed for thing with the cemetery. And he lived around the corner from Waverley Cemetery as
Yeah.
a child and obviously used to play
Right.
there and wanted me to have the same fond relationship with
How-
the graves and monuments. But he hadn't done anything so practical as organise a plot or any of that. So I had to go into the records myself. This very helpful man helped me find where our family had been buried there. And then you have to renew the plot because there's a shortage of burial plots in Sydney. And he
Yes.
wasn't being buried, he was cremated, but we interred the ashes in the plot.
In the plot.
And I had to renew it for 50 years or whatever. So
Oh,
it was like he'd done nothing helpful.
No.
Nothing. Whereas my mother's
No.
on version 7.2 of the demise document.
And what's in the demise document?
Oh, her passwords. What we do when we unpack the china cabinet. Here's the precious things from her parents, and here's all the stuff we
Great.
can get rid of.
Right.
Here's where you'll find X.
Yeah.
Here's a dealer who will buy my antique cabinet for you.
Oh,
Like she's
that's
researched everything.
brilliant. That is brilliant.
It is. She's kind of useful. So you might have the all goes to shit kit, but a demise document is super handy because no one really wants, and I've had this experience happen, when friends have passed, no one wants their Facebook profile to still keep staring them in the face like they're alive and well,
No, you want to
It's
know how to get in.
Yeah, and you want to be able to
Manage
say
it.
to people, very sad news, if you're a friend of this person, they have sadly passed and we're going to have a celebration at this time on this date. I'm sure
Yes.
anyone who'd like to come might come because ringing people for the funeral, that's actually really hard work too, right?
Oh, that's terribly hard work.
Yeah, and you just get upset and
and people want to talk.
I
and
know.
Probably takes
And you're like-
months to ring everyone for the funeral.
and you're like, I've got a list of 200 to get through.
Yeah,
Can
please
we wrap
don't.
it up?
yeah. I know you're sorry. Bye. Oh,
But,
terrible.
yeah, and it is.
And dealing with other people's grief because they're in shock probably, and then yes,
And siblings, I think it's especially difficult for the sibling relationship when a parent has
Yeah.
gone, that things shift and change, right? And
yes, yeah.
it's just challenging all round. So, between your reference number for my aged care and demise documents and paperwork, there's a lot to consider, right?
Yes,
And you're either in it and you sort of understand it, or you're kind of out of it and going, I don't want to go there. I don't want to walk in. I don't want to open that door.
yeah.
You kind of have to if you want the full circle of life to work for everyone.
Look,
right?
if you don't want to leave a mess, and
Yeah.
if you don't want to leave people trying to grapple with their
That's
grief
right.
and sort everything. And I have a room that I call the sorting room, which is full of my parents' stuff that I couldn't let go. I'm a bit of
Oh.
a hoarder, and my husband calls it the skip. And and it's just this nightmare. It's just every time it's one of the bedrooms because the kids have moved out. They only recently moved, but they've
They
moved
finally
out,
left.
moved back, moved out, moved back. But so what was a bedroom is just now this room packed
storage
floor to
room.
ceiling with stuff.
So you need my mother to come and sort that out because she has already told me that on my next visit to her, I have to take away a whole thing of photos because she knows I don't want to sort out the photos when she's gone.
Well, you know
right?
those photos I got there.
yeah,
I had to go into the sorting room or the skip, and there was a hold-all, like a bag from my parents' house where I'd put all the photos, and sitting on top with
Aw.
those two. They were the photos when we were at a Macular Disease Foundation
Aw.
because Mum had, and I'm an ambassador, and Mum had macular disease, and then Dad got macular disease too.
Oh, wow.
So
Very sad.
later, and but I got them from Mum and Dad's
The skip room.
it's
not-
the sorting room.
But it's not a sorting room like Harry Potter sorting hat, is it? It's just
yeah, it's a room of requirement. like Harry Potter. I went in, I needed photos of mum and dad, and I went in and there it was. So it's a room of requirements.
And so let's just talk a bit more about the aged care system. Lots of changes happening, but essentially it's the same thing, right? There's care, there's levels of care you can get.
Yes.
And it's more complex and slightly different all the time because that's what bureaucracies do, right? That's just how they make it happen. But essentially, Australia is not going to get more places for nursing home or residential aged care. More of us are going to age in our own homes in some way, shape, or form. That's a fair assessment to make, isn't it?
The government wants us to
That's
age
right.
in, like we always talked about aging in place,
Yes.
but we never talked about dying in place. And
That's
not
true.
many could because it's expensive if you need 24/7 care.
Yes,
But
this is
often
true.
you don't. Often families can do that. So you have a palliative care
Okay.
nurse that comes in and says, "Look, because it's the symptom of dying management at the end." So you're right about palliative care in hospitals, and that's always the end of life. But you can, it's symptom
Transition.
management of.
Okay.
So although it's not treatment for what you have anymore, it's a treatment. It's managing your
eases the
symptoms.
symptoms,
So
yeah.
you can still be getting treatment for whatever is
Yes.
ailing you, but you have the palliative care coming in
Okay.
and helping your symptoms and the symptoms of knowing you're going to die. That's really
That
important.
is hardcore, isn't it?
Yeah, so we always had aging in place, and then you'd have a level 4, which was probably maybe 12 hours a week or something like that. That's
Okay.
all. And then in the end, you'd have to go into residential aged care or hospital to die.
That's right.
Unless you had money. But now with the new system, they want you to die in place as well. They want you to die at home if you want to, not because they care about you being around your knickknacks, but it's
Your
cheaper.
sorting room,
It's
it's
a
cheaper,
lot
definitely.
less expensive than paying for beds in hospitals or residential aged care. So they've now got a palliative care level. I'm not sure how that's going to work. So
Okay.
you've got level 8, right up to level 8. And then if the doctor says that you've got 16 weeks to live, you can access palliative care
Oh, okay.
funding. But if you live longer than 16 weeks, no one's yet told me
Whether they just cut you
happens.
off. They just leave you and make you run an Ironman race
All
or
right,
something
now,
at the end.
just go to
You're
hospital
done.
now. I don't
You've
know.
used it. You've used your
used it.
palliative
Who
care.
knows
Be
what?
good now.
The system is changing because they want to give our vulnerable elders who are often pushed around and disempowered and disregarded and treated badly more control and more protection.
Okay.
So they're trying. So I was at a conference for Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission, and their modus operandi, they really want to help protect our elders. How it works, I'm not sure.
Okay.
There's more regulation with residential aged care. There's more oversight. There's more channels for complaint and more support if you want to complain. There's more regulation of providers so they don't take 50% of your package in admin fees and travel
that's a lot of
fees and
that.
all that. So because just like the NDIS, you've got people who are in it
Abuse
for the
it.
bucks.
Yeah, that's right.
And the people who they send to you can't cook, can't clean, can't care, they're not trained, and
Very difficult.
it's very difficult. So they want to improve that, which is all this is very honourable. Whether it works or not, or how it works, I think it'll take quite a few years to settle in, but we need to learn the system.
That's right. And if you don't embrace the complexity of the system, you'll just be a victim of it, right? And so will the person that you love.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that point you made that your parents lived such a great long life because you were there, because you'd had a relationship with the doctor, because you'd been on the phone to my aged care several times.
Because when they went to hospital, I was in there like a shot.
And you also mentioned to me having a geriatrician care with
Oh.
your parents. Talk about that, because not many people even understand what a geriatrician even is.
Yeah, well, a geriatrician is someone who is specialized in older people
Yeah.
and their
Symptoms.
ailments and their symptoms and what it's like to age and what it might be like physically and psychologically.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and in their mental health and their physical health. So mum and dad had a wonderful geriatrician who looked after them and would say things like, "Well, why don't you see a hematologist and maybe just have a blood transfusion?
Okay.
And she looked at all that your iron might be a bit low or something like that. And let's have a look at your medications. Well, you're in your late 90s. I don't think you need preventative folic acid for this or this supplement for eye health anymore.
Now
And
that
I
you're
don't
blind.
think you need all the preventative things there were. Mum was
Okay.
on about 9 meds and she would cut it down to about 6, and that
Okay.
made mum feel better.
Yeah.
I'm getting better. And a geriatrician, really importantly, there's a lot about our elders' capacity, because that's where elder abuse can come in.
That's right.
Capacity is whether you can still make your own decisions
That's
or
right.
not, basically. Whether you feel GPs should not be judging capacity.
Okay.
You should have a geriatrician, because a geriatrician knows that capacity is very nuanced. Like, an elder may not be able to decide what they want for dinner, but that doesn't mean they can't decide where they want to live.
That's right. That's exactly right. And I think that's the important thing to know if you're a carer as well, right? Is when to step in and know that other people aren't doing their job well enough for what your loved one might want. Because this is the navigation and the complexity. You dance in and out, and it's very, very challenging. The other
Yeah.
piece I really wanted to talk to is, as you're navigating this and your parents might be leading towards the end of their life, how hard is anticipatory grief when you're on the caring journey versus the real grief when it actually happens?
Oh, yes. Well, I just wish that I had expressed my grief. But
Okay.
we were always,
Doing.
everything we're doing,
Yeah.
a lot of doing, not enough sitting and
Yeah.
being,
Yeah.
not enough of that. That's my main regret.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my main regret is just spending so much time about looking after their care and their needs and filling in this form or checking their mail or seeing if anything was
Yeah.
alive in the fridge,
Yeah.
like that. I didn't sit with them and I didn't grieve with them. I should have told them how much I'd miss them, because I actually didn't realize probably how much I'd miss them. And I remember one day Dad saying, "I'm going to really miss you when I'm gone," and which was really sad. And I go, "Oh, that's," and then he laughed and I laughed and I knew it was sad, but that would have been a time when I could have said, like,
I'll miss you too.
I'm going to really miss you both.
Yeah.
And we could have all had a cry.
Yeah.
But we never did that because we were too busy sort of being in denial
Yeah.
at 99, still in denial, but still being positive. But I regret that, and probably I actually didn't realize um, how overwhelming the grief would be. I still miss them terribly. But I wish I'd expressed it and said to them, and all that while they were still alive.
Yeah.
And then, of course, at the funeral, everyone's weeping and saying
Wailing.
beautiful things. And why don't we have the funeral while they're alive?
Well, that's a big new trend, right? Is you have
Yeah.
a living wake. So if you
Yeah.
know you're towards the end of your life, you do have that. You
Yeah.
say, I want the funeral to be with me there. And,
Yeah.
very sad, obviously, but also potentially quite happy. And I guess, Nick Cave, who,
Yeah.
sings the saddest of sad
Yes,
songs,
yes,
and
he's
sadly he
wonderful.
lost his son, and he's written quite a lot about grief. And he says, grief is just a terrible reminder of the depths of your love. And I don't think none of us get out of here alive, right? So,
No.
someone is going to die or be lost to you at some point
Yeah.
in your life. Yet we don't talk about it. And, for good reason, we don't want to think about death while we're alive. But at the same time, it's part of life.
Oh, grief is, the wonderful thing about grief is that you've had people you've loved
That's right.
and who have loved you and you've cared for deeply. So grief can be a very, positive.
Mm.
I think trauma is
Okay.
long lasting and not great. But grief you can live with, and you can have and you can miss people deeply, and you probably don't get over it. But I think when I was brought up, my parents had gone through the Great Depression,
Yeah,
World
that's
War
right.
II. When people came back from their era, when they came back from the Second World War, they were told not to talk about
That's
it,
right.
not to talk about the people who died, not to talk about the people they lost, that it was like
A lot
that
of people
death was a
died.
thing
Mm.
apart. So when I was growing up, we never talked about death. I only went to the funeral of one of my grandparents
Oh,
because we
okay.
were protected
Well,
from
children weren't
death.
meant to be seeing funerals, right? That
Oh, they
was.
were never meant to go. So my era,
Mm,
we never went to funerals, and we never, so we were told that happiness is
that's
a
what we.
successful life is a happy life.
Yeah.
But I think we mentioned Harry Potter earlier, and I think Harry Potter was one of those first books that ever made grief and loss a
Mm,
central theme,
yeah.
and to know that it was something in some ways positive that led to it was a great motivation for humanity.
That's right. Yep.
And so I think talking about it is, and for kids, young people to know that it's a part of life is grief, and not
Yeah.
everything is happy.
Well, it's not. And I mean, the thing about my dad's obsession with cemeteries was I got
Yeah.
his cemetery book collection because he collected a lot of. Oh,
Really?
he was quite into them. And in the Victorian era, you couldn't escape death because literally children died all the time of
Yeah.
diphtheria, and people died in childbirth, and death was everywhere in the Victorian era, which is when the funeral fetishism with horses wearing feathers and stuff all came in.
Yes.
And I'm sure my dad was gripped because of the loss of his own father.
Yes.
And desperately wanted me to somehow carry on the obsession.
Yeah.
But funerals are a celebration of life. Definitely the person who's passed can't usually attend the funeral because they're dead.
Yes.
But they are there to help people carry forward, right?
Yes.
And grief will catch people at odd moments.
Yes, it does.
Like it doesn't go away after a funeral, right?
No. No.
It will catch you all the time. And I think that other great philosopher, Keanu Reeves, he said grief just changes shape and doesn't end. And I was like, well,
Yes.
that's actually quite profound, Keanu.
Yeah.
You should,
Was
should
he
do
in the
that
Matrix
more.
when he said that?
Or
Was
maybe he was in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I'm joking. But yeah, it's grief is a part of life, right?
Yes.
That we don't want to talk about.
And there are different forms of grief, and I'm sure people who lose children have a different form of grief. People who lose
Mm,
parents, and I saw that at my parents' funeral. What their grandchildren had to say about them was incredibly moving and profound. And if there's one thing that them, having a really long life did, was meant that they had a really long relationship with their grandchildren, and
yeah.
how important that relationship was, and how different it was to my relationship with
Yeah.
them. And they still grieve them in a very different way.
Right.
And my eldest daughter had her birthday recently, and we both sat on the couch and just cried about mum and dad.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh.
So
What do you think Elaine would say about that?
she'd go, "Oh, there."
What about Roy? What would Roy say?
He'd start crying.
Oh,
He would have had a cry too, definitely. And then we all would have had a laugh about something. Look, there's a puppy. Oh, isn't that good? We would have distracted ourselves, changed the subject. Yeah.
Everyone's very good at that, especially around death.
Yeah.
All right, we might move into what I call my two choices phase as we wrap this conversation.
Oh,
So what I
right.
do is I give you two choices and you just immediately say the one that you would choose. right?
Okay.
So
Oh.
I want to know what's worse, guilt or grief?
Trauma.
Trust you to
Are they
break
the
out.
rules? No.
They're okay though, but I do agree that trauma compounds both of those terrible
Yeah.
things, right? Like
Yeah.
it's very hard to untangle them. Okay, what about binge eat or binge watch?
Oh. I don't know whether binge watch is a watching disorder, but I would say, did you say worse or better?
Yeah, which one would
Better.
you choose? Would you
Oh,
binge eat or
binge
would
watch.
you? Yeah, you like
Yeah.
binge watching? What's your binge watch? Go
Oh,
to.
crime shows.
I love crime shows too. How
Do
good are
you?
the Scandies with their crime?
Yeah, love the
Oh my
Scandies. We've been
gosh.
watching. We just saw something called Ludwig or something funny
Oh,
by the that really funny guy David
that one.
Mitchell, the English comedian. He's brilliant, and
Ah,
he's in it, and that woman who's really good, she's in it.
so
So,
crime ever SBS On Demand is my top tip
oh
for the
yeah,
crime
there's.
shows. They have the
What
best.
did you watch recently on
I
that?
watched The Bridge, which is
Oh
a
yeah, I've seen
it's
yeah,
very
that's really good. I've seen both. I think I've seen the Scandi, the original
Yes.
one, and that one. Yeah, that's
And there's a German version of The Bridge as well that I
right.
just watched called Der Pass, which they've translated to Pagan's Peak or something, or Pagan's Pass. So
Right,
there's a German version where they're on the Austrian-German border and they exploit the.
right.
Anyway, I love crime
So
as well.
my husband wouldn't watch any show which started with the death of a woman.
Oh,
Yeah, because they nearly always do. He said it's just
they
pushing
do.
buttons and, manipulating us all. And I went, but that's really, like, good on you, love. No, let's not watch anything that starts with the death of a woman. That cut out like
I was going to say
90%.
95% of shows
I know,
gone.
but it makes you really aware of it,
Of the fact that they're
that they start
exploiting
with it. There's always
a
some
death of a
horrible
woman.
death of a
That's
woman,
okay.
but there's some that don't. We've just started watching Bosch.
Oh yes, Bosch is
So,
good.
yeah, it's quite good actually.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
good. He's a good writer, the guy that created Bosch.
Well, it's 11 seasons.
There's
we go,
a lot of
11
it.
seasons. We don't have to go, what are we going to watch?
Yeah, I know.
We just sit and watch.
It's nice,
You know,
isn't
but
it?
our binge is like, I'll go to bed at 9 o'clock because
Yeah,
I
me
know
too.
I'm going to wake up at 1 o'clock and be.
And then you never
read.
get back to sleep.
You
I know.
don't get
You,
back to-
what is that? Is that just like a menopause
Oh,
curse of life?
Yeah, I think
If you wake between 1 and 3 a.m.,
Yeah,
that's it. Like
that's
you're
it.
awake for hours.
Yeah, and then you either, like go and get a hot cup of milk and some chocolate. I don't know what the.
It never works. That's all I have to
No.
say. All right, let's go back to my two
Okay.
things. Okay. Home care or residential care?
Home care.
Okay.
Where possible.
Yeah.
Residential care, if necessary. Good residential care.
And
Good
that's
residential care is excellent.
excellent. Now, respite or push through? So we've talked about respite care, which is where you just go for a few weeks, right?
Yeah.
But
Well, respite for a carer, like you take it, it's up to the individual carer. Like, take a respite when you can. Like, my respite would be the hour drive home from seeing mum and dad and just talking it out with friends and family. That was enough for me. So I pushed through. But I know I knew how to get my own respite. And it wasn't, we didn't have a holiday for 8 years.
yeah.
Because I kept thinking, this is my parents' last Christmas.
And it wasn't.
And it wasn't.
Until it is, right?
Until it is. And I don't regret that. But yeah, take your respite where you can. But I wouldn't say, oh, you've got to do this. And you lose a lot of your friends because you let them down so much. People say, stay, make sure you go out with your friends. But your friends get sick of you cancelling on them.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
But just find it where you can. You can make up that friendship, those friendships you'll get. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Prevention versus cure. So, do you still prevent with folic acid? Or do you attempt to cure? How do you make the decision?
Oh, well, you always start with prevention, and then when you get something, you try to cure it.
Okay.
So.
Okay, fair enough. Now, what about early bird or night owl? What are you?
Oh, night owl.
Okay, night owl.
Yeah, apart from that early bird 1 till 3 in the morning.
Yeah, I know that's a curse,
Yeah.
that one. Grandparenting or parenting? What's better?
Oh, well, parenting is more important. Like grandparenting, I've only been a grandparent for 8 months, but it's sort of like, part-time parenting or casual work.
So it's not your career, it's just a casual dalliance.
Yeah, it's not as important. Parenting, I think, is the most important.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
Having said that, but then I just said about how important mum and dad were to their grandchildren and how important that relationship was because they just were with them.
Yeah.
They just sat. They just listened. They looked them in the eye. They heard them.
Yeah.
They didn't judge. They encouraged them quietly and just accepted them, which you can't do as a parent. You're going, go and do your homework. Pick up the wet towels.
Eat
Move
the
out
carrots.
of home.
Yeah, all the pieces. Now, we're going to move to your choice of Tim Tams or mint slice?
Oh, Tim Tams.
I
Oh,
know
mint
mint
slice.
slice. I asked this question. So many people love a mint slice.
Oh,
Who wants toothpaste in a chocolate biscuit?
exactly.
It's
Tastes like
not.
toothpaste.
It's revolting.
Revolting.
I'm
I
glad
can't
we're
even
aligned.
drink peppermint tea though.
Oh, really?
No, it tastes like warm toothpaste.
So mint isn't your thing at all.
I like mint in salads and things. Real mint.
Ah, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
mint
and
leaves.
mint sauce on a roast lamb. Are you okay with
well,
that or no?
Well,
That's a
Mum
no.
and Dad used to make their own mint sauce, and it was like, vinegar.
Vinegar
I
and
like
brown
mint
sugar.
jelly. Like I'm a bit of
Oh, from
more
the jar.
sweet. Yeah.
Oh,
bit
okay.
sweet.
Interesting. What's more important, money or laughter? That really stumped you, didn't it? Money or laughter? What's more important?
Well, I don't think if you didn't have any money, there wouldn't be a lot of laughter. Everything needs money.
Okay.
Everything.
Good.
Everything you need for your health, for your well-being, your food, your shelter.
And we do. One of the questions that I did really want to dig into was having a financial advisor through the late stages of your parents' life, because financial advice can be really important as you go into these last legs, right?
Oh, and it's essential because every decision you make has a financial component. And Mum and Dad's was simple because they were pensioners, but so many people I talk to, and it changes all the time. Say you went into residential aged care and you had and you didn't qualify for any help at all
Assistance.
because your assets and income were too high, but then you had to pay a RAD,
Residential accommodation deposit.
yeah. And then you had the daily fees and the basic fees. Suddenly you've got less income and assets and you're qualified for the pension.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep your eye on everything. And the best thing is to get a financial advisor. The person I spoke to for my book, his name is Brendan Ryan with Later Life. I'm giving him a plug because so many people come up to me when I do conferences, and then they say, "Oh, we got some advice. It cost us $7,000. It can cost you $800 just to get an overview." He specializes in looking at your assets and income and says, "This is your situation. This is what you qualify for." So I'm just giving you that. You can cut it out later. I don't know what you think about me giving someone a plug, but anyway, get someone who does later life advice, who knows all the rules and the regulations. Don't ask your normal financial planner
who's done your superannuation for you. They're not the same things, right?
They don't always know. They don't always know, and the rules change all the time, and they don't always know the ins and outs of qualifying. And know that if you go into a retirement village, they're not regulated. You have to negotiate. Look at the fine print.
Oh, there's just so many to-dos, isn't
there?
There really is.
Money,
there really is. All right, we're going to wrap this now.
Okay.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I'd love to know what Roy and Elaine might have said about this conversation. What do you think they would have liked to have contributed?
Mum would have gone, "Oh, Jean," about something I said. Roy would have gone, "You were great, love."
Oh,
yeah. No, Mum would have been. They're both very proud that I've written books. Mum was before she lost her sight, she was an avid book reader, and they know why I wrote this book.
Yeah.
Because our journey was so difficult, and because we made so many mistakes when we were late in getting to things. So, Mum and Dad were always proud of me, even no matter what I did.
That's nice. Yeah, though. It's good to know that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Mum would have just rolled her eyes at some of the things I do. Not necessary, but she's but they were both really loving people, and Mum would tell you her honest opinion. I don't know what she would have thought of this.
Maybe don't imagine
she
too
probably
hard.
No, I know now. I'm going to wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning.
I know. I was going to say that'll be plaguing you when you wake up at 2 a.m.
She would have said, "Why didn't you mention this all?
Oh, yeah.
You forgot to say that."
Anyway, this is a wrap. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Alex.
The books are fantastic, and
Thank you.
they're there as a resource. Now, I do believe you do have a new upcoming book.
Oh,
would you like to start writing it and maybe tell us when?
Yeah,
it
don't
might
tell my
come out?
publisher I haven't started writing it. I signed the contract like 6 months ago.
This is right at the end. No one listens all the way to the
no
end,
one
so we'll
listens
be
to the
okay.
end. That's all right. It's just a short a book I feel like I need to write about how to die well. So
Yeah.
that's what it's going to be about, just how to put everything in place, because planning is everything. So you're
Well-
prepared for a crisis or a gradual unraveling. And I thought because I'd written the book before Mum and Dad had died, I thought their death was going to follow a certain path, and I thought I would be able to control it. And now I realize there was a whole lot more work I had to do to make sure they got the deaths they wanted.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm just going to write something short so that people can go, right, this is what I need. You know, these are the phone numbers I need. This is the people I need to connect with. This is, you know, like your mum's
Demise 7.2.
demise 7.4.
Will it be laminated? That's the
I'll
question.
laminate it in honor of your mum.
She would love that.
Yeah, I will laminate this page. I'll have a tear out page that everyone can laminate, which is not a bad idea, actually.
Well, stick it on the fridge, laminate. You can wipe it clean if it gets sprayed
I
with the
know.
roast or
That's
the mint
right.
jelly or whatever you choose.
That's right. That's right. So many people, they have all these important documents and no one knows where to find
I
them.
know. Or you find them in the sports bag with grandma's ashes or something terrible
that's
like
right.
that.
That's right. Oh, that would have been,
It was a shock.
yeah, a shock.
Poor grandma.
That's right.
She didn't know that's where she was going to end up.
Oh, yeah, no, I've got to sort Mum and Dad
Yeah,
out.
you don't want to have the skip still.
No,
in
I
place.
don't. I don't. Every time I
Your
open
kids
my
don't want that
cupboard,
either.
who put the shoes on, Mum and Dad?
Anyway, that is a wrap. Thank you so much for your time.